Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNeed on Twitter and CBCaps on Instagram.
With Columbia down the way.
And the sound effect you heard comes from none other than our sound provider, our man in Brooklyn. I can safely say for a fact that he is not a cat. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Comic Book Chronicles. No, and you can find this here program on the Coast of the Podcast Network at cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this here podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast of the Podcast page, network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe.
But yes, you can also find us recording every Thursday night. And if you're here watching us live, hey, how you doing? On the YouTube channel of the Click Nation, that's youtube.com/ClickNation, or twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, all one.
Again, hit like and subscribe.
Ish. Oh, folks. Actually, wait. Guess we wanted to wish, before we go any further, wish everyone a merry Lunar New Year. Oh, is that so right?
Yes, it is Lunar New Year's Eve. So gongxi fa cai, gongxi fa choi. Happy Lunar New Year. And basically what I said is hope you get rich. And folks, let's hope we all get rich together.
Yes, indeed. Hope some of the rich people get poor.
There you go.
But yes, that being the case, though, we are going to start off the podcast with the books of the week, like we normally do. I won't be able to hear that in an out recording. Don't worry about it. Worry about it. Anyway, we're gonna start off with the books of the week, starting off with Taskmaster number 3.
Taskmaster number 3. It's written by one of our favorite writers, that is Jed MacKay, with art by Alessandro Vitti, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Believe it or not, this is one of my potential clicks of the week. This issue was supremely fun, and it is a blast reading it from the Taskmaster's point of view and in his voice. Without spoiling where we are in issue 3 of this 5-issue limited series. The title of the story arc is The Rubicon Trigger. And just to recap where we've been, Maria Hill apparently has been killed, and the Taskmaster has allegedly been framed for this particular murder, and he's on the run trying to prove his innocence with the help of one Nick Fury Jr. What we have in this issue, and it's not a big spoiler because it's teased on the front cover, is that we have the Taskmaster venturing to South Korea and dealing with the White Fox that is his target. We see that the Taskmaster always is extremely capable, mimicking moves without knowing their proper names, which is hysterical.
Yeah, that part right there was pretty funny. It was like, yeah, I wish I knew that. All these cool moves that I stole from people, basically.
Right. I mean, that obviously touches upon one of the things that came up when Brubaker and Fraction redid the Iron Fist's origin, or expanded upon his origin, and that whole naming of the martial arts moves really became a thing in the martial arts corner of the Marvel universe, and it's even progressed into the pages of comic books that have Shang-Chi in it. So that's definitely a trend that started back then. One of the cool parts of this issue is that there is a point where he is confronted by the Black Widow, and he's terrified, absolutely petrified. Just can't get, like he's literally, like pooping his pants, peeing in his pants, and the only way he gets out of it is he's literally, maybe not literally, but quite figuratively, pulls a rabbit out of his hat to escape.
Right. You can. That was the other thing about this that was kind of cool, because you could see, like, clearly anytime you have seen, and especially in another, well, because he shows up in another book this week, relatively capable, but a lot of times, especially in current current new Taskmaster's kind of like hey, I'm an opening arc villain or the opening issue villain that to take down real easily, even though the master of mimicking other people's moves, and he's actually quite formidable, and therefore it's sometimes actually very prepared for the people he's running into, with the exception of apparently wasn't expecting, even though he knew she was on his tail, wasn't expecting to into Black Widow point in time. But the one good thing that this issue kind of shows off is that he's pretty good at improv. Like he pretty much rolls with a situation, even though sometimes it's like in last couple issues kind of gone bad for him. But he still happens to make the best of the situation, which to his credit. That's like I said, back in the day when Taskmaster showed up, I'm like, don't take him.
Right. And it's funny, he mimics moves and also styles, because when confronted with the White Fox, he basically says to himself, well, we're in really close quarters in a narrow hallway, so I can't break out the big swordsman broadsword, but I can use a knife, and I've seen the Winter Soldier with a knife, so that'll have to do. So that's it's a pretty cool, it's a great way to remember or to reference his photo reflex ability, where he can, I guess, pull that stuff out on a whim.
Right.
Just reference it as someone would a database or a Rolodex back in the day.
Yeah. Which I don't know. If he was a hero, I would say that would be a cool thing. But at the same time, I don't know. There's a weird affinity I've actually had with Taskmaster. I don't too much fairly like him, like a whole lot. But I've always, whenever he used to show up in the past, I'm like, all right, let's see how this is gonna go. But also, if you played Marvel Heroes video game, there's this. I know I showed it to you. There's this doing a commercial for Taskmaster Institute,
Right.
which is really good if you've ever seen that commercial, because I know it's out there. Maybe I might put it in.
Right.
But that all being said, it was like, no, this is a horrible ass dude, and like being everybody good. He is what he is.
Sure. Right. He's even made an appearance in one of the Capcom Marvel fighting games, where he obviously possesses so many of he possesses attributes and abilities similar to so many of the characters in the game, sometimes watered down, sometimes not. That makes the character very fun to play. So he's in one of the later versions. I think it's like Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom.
He might
Yeah,
have been in two.
exactly. I
He
think
might have
it's
actually
3.
been in two.
I want to say he was in 3. I don't think he was in
No,
2,
he was
but
probably definitely in three. But I'm thinking I want to say he might have shown up earlier than that, but I would have to look up.
same.
But yeah, definitely Marvel vs. Capcom fans. Taskmaster. That being said, though, but yeah, like I said, this issue was very fun, as it tends to be, and given the writer, we kind of expected this. Our other favorite, kind of one of our newer favorite writers. Point.
Sure. And there's he just has a great deft touch at moments that are just simply funny. Just as he gains the upper hand on both White Fox and the Black Widow, he's talking to himself. Just two little steps. But what if what if I do this? But what if this happens? And something happens, and Taskmaster is just like, nope.
Right. It's like, no, I'm good. But actually,
Like,
which
nope.
actually kind of made me put me in mind of Black Widow's, most recent miniseries, where people were kind of having that same dilemma, but ended up going on, ended up making a choice. We haven't necessarily seen come back on, but wait, I think it finished. I can't remember. No, actually, I'm not sure if it did finish. But regardless, because I do remember where we left off on that, but I don't remember. But yeah, I thought that part right there was kind of funny. But he left a little something behind, or whether that goes into something or not, we shall see in the next. Which also brings to the point that you brought up the whole Marie Hill thing. I know this is something that was spoiled like for well before issue 1. We see, so there's shades of that came up in this, or at least thinking about it, because Taskmaster kind of was monologuing to himself, an internal monologuing to himself, kind of thinking about the situation, basically talking about the people that are involved and whether they may or may not be more directly involved with it or being played, or whether everybody is being kind of put that out there in the universe as a thing. Which honestly, part of me was like, yeah, that this sounds like something we would do, kind of get Taskmaster to do something directly be involved in for whatever reason, whatever the end goal would be, for Taskmaster's mission. But at the same time, it could be anybody, you know.
Right.
So it very, like he said, pretty much said like, yeah, all of us might seem like we. Sounds like there's going to be another coming to play. And that has to be in the next issue because last, it's only 2 more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's being it. Unless you got something else you wanna about it, we can push on.
No, we can push on.
What you got?
How about? No, you didn't read this. I don't think you stayed away from all Kingdom Black stuff again, right?
Did.
Let's see. Take a look at your list. Excalibur number 18.
Sure, why not?
All right, so this is written by Tini Howard with art by Marcus Toe. I think he does the pencils and inks on this. Colors by Eric Arciniega, letters by VC's Ariana Mayer. So some of the suspicions that we had coming into this issue may be proven correct, in that the Betsy that has returned to Krakoa is likely not the Betsy everyone was hoping for. Meanwhile, we find out that Richter has inherited some of the secrets of mutant quote unquote magic that Apocalypse had been tapping into prior to him abandoning Krakoa for Arakko. Without spoiling too much, because there's a bunch of stuff going on that I guess is still being developed for the pages of Excalibur, but in very broad strokes, that's where we are right now.
Right. And part of me is like, well, okay, we kind of knew this from, if you read the and or the news that surrounds books nowadays, I was like, of course, there's something in it. Kind of going into it, even knowing that sometimes if you go into it, it's like I just want to see how stuff. Like, yeah, you kind of figure that out. Right, Betsy being back, something's not right, and Excalibur, don't like those various members is like, especially Rogue, particularly, is like there's something ain't seem right in the water. Which there you go. Betsy was came in back in some water. Guess that worked out also. But
Exactly.
and so they tried to sit there and keep secret from folks and didn't do it well.
Mm.
Or no, or even if they were really trying, but if they had good reasons for this, we couldn't find out in the course of the book.
Right.
But yeah, we knew this is leading up to something in a couple of issues. No, but we know if and or new something's gonna it's gonna come to a head. Because it did
Mm-hmm.
kind of, even if you didn't know that piece of it, it does seem kind of weird. It's like, okay, the big thing they made to do with her, being dealt with in X of Swords, you know, already. Which I say a big thing. I felt like they almost kind of just like did it and just dropped it almost, but it was in service of kind of leading to this, I guess. And that being the case, knew they were gonna at some point come back to fitting to be cut and dry. I was like, oh yeah, here we go, back. Here's the go.
Mm-hmm.
To its credit, it definitely had that full. Yeah, wherever the whole Richter and the magic thing is go. And I noticed they did talk about joining powers again, which I feel like is also a thing that's probably going to lead what we found out in Hoxpox, the future stuff, which haven't gone back to
Right.
full strides.
Right.
But I feel like some of that is also in that. Kind of something similar to what's going on in New Mutants, where they're training the guys their powers with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're making a call out to that. Touch on the future stuff and coming up soon.
It may be a while.
Yeah, because yeah, especially because that would be probably seems like something that they wouldn't want to do just coming out of a big.
Right. If there's one thing that we have had to deal with this month and in the wake of Ten of Swords is reestablishing the storylines that had come before the big crossover. And even I had some problems with reestablishing, not so much here in Excalibur, but in X Force that was out this week, where we had left off. And I just didn't have the time and the wherewithal to backtrack and see where we had left off pre um Ten of Swords with regards to some of the storylines that get picked up here. This is not exactly a direct continuation of the first issue in that came out in the wake of I'm actually speaking more for X Force, but Excalibur I think flows a little bit more neatly, obviously because of the central role that Betsy plays, or at least played in the beginning, or at least part of Ten of Swords. So this is direct fallout, so it's not as hard to pick up where we left off.
True, true, very true. But yeah, and the one thing about X Factor, of course, I said I hadn't read this, but from the last issue, and it was like, yeah, there was one piece of this, like, oh yeah, right, there was that thing, kind of touched on, but kind of just went to something else. That
Right.
was so happened to happen right after.
Mm-hmm.
That being the case, I think we're done with X. I'll push on to another book.
Pick one.
Let's do FF, actually.
All right, sounds good.
So Fantastic Four number 29, folks.
Go for it.
Written by Dan Slott. Written by Dan Slott. Artist by Zay Carlos. Colorist Jesus Albertov. Lettering by VC Caramanga. It is a King in Black tie-in. As I say in my notes, basically King in Black catches up with the FF as opposed to the other way around.
Right.
But we also see the appearance of the Baxter Building in its original form, apparently.
Not the Baxter Building, but the
not the Baxter Building. Excuse me.
Street.
Yeah. 49 Yancey Street.
Right. Like there, just to touch upon one of the things that we talked about when they were dealing with the Griever and they shrunk it. There are some side effects, some ramifications of that. It's not they have not quite they're not quite able to regain everything that was inside 4 Yancey Street when they shrunk it down. You know, there are a couple of things that are either missing or gone as a result of the shrinking and the folding in of 4 Yancey Street. So we'll see if that plays a role moving forward once we're out of the King in Black tie-ins.
Right.
Or even as we're in the King in Black tie-in.
Yeah, it is not the TARDIS as much of a TARDIS as.
I have no idea what that means, but okay.
That's okay. Doctor Who fans will get sure. But yeah, so there's so from that, you know, you get the whole thing with Johnny and Sky. Apparently some of the loss that happened in Johnny's room. Or Johnny and Sky's room, I guess, at that. And, they go out and do one very Snoopy Sue, you know, following them around. They're being all cute. Because for folks that don't know, Sky is Johnny is. I feel like at some point they're gonna do something, kill that, but I kind of hope they don't.
Okay.
Because I kind of feel like she's good for him, but he could do better. But she's good for him.
Funny.
But that being said, but also leads into a slight little argument when out, but also goes into service to lead. Basically catches us up with what happened in King in Black up to a point. Because they do reference one book. They don't necessarily. So there was a panel in there that actually kind of was weird. Because when we see it catch up to King in Black, we see and granted, I've not read of the main King in Black stuff to know if that's any part of that is how it played out. But when it does end up catching up, a person who has a particular task during events of King in Black, but they almost made it seem like, at least to me, made it seem like they were one of the ones that got swallowed up by the Venom symbiote. Like, granted, that just could be how the panel. But outside of that, and I do know enough about what happens in the main book to know Johnny's part of it, or at least part of Johnny's part of it that gets hinted up. So we kind of get caught up on that and what happens to some of the other heroes. That one part, and then kind of focusing on one of them for the rest. Try to round them and try to regroup. Also leads to the stage of Carter, which outside of the fact that it was the King of Black tie-in, we know this is a line-wide thing, so it's going to happen at some point. As we've said before, FF is one of the books that is kind of late to the game in being tied in.
Right.
Finally caught up, and we'll see how that plays out.
Right. We have one more tie-in issue.
Yeah, because it's pretty much wrapping up, right?
No, we still have another month. We're definitely going into March. We still have two more main, I believe, miniseries, two more issues in the main miniseries.
Here we are with that.
No, that's pretty much it.
Unless you got another book to toss out there, we can go to Rapid.
I think we can go into a rapid fire because we don't have too much more crossover, so I'll spin it up.
Okay. Know the sound. Rapid fire, cuz.
All right. So first up for me is Radiant Black #1. This is an Image book. It's written by Kyle Higgins with art by Marcelo Costa, letters by Becca Carey. A writer is really down on his luck in this issue and is forced to move back home. He goes out for a drink with an old friend, and shenanigans ensue. They run into a random floating energy phenomenon, because it's a singular thing, phenomenon. And bam! Costume and superpowers. But he may not be the only one in the same situation. Da, da, da.
Yeah. So I'm actually interested in this book because this is Kyle Higgins who wrote Power Rangers.
Right.
When that started. His run of that and the other book that actually he didn't do it. Regardless, I enjoyed his run. I was actually reading this, but chance to. But also Phenomena. Dun, 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 dun.
Phenomena. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Next up is Amazing Spider-Man #59. Written by Nick Spencer with pencils by Marcelo Ferreira, inks by Wayne Foucher, colors by Maury Hollowell and Andrew Crossley, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Spencer's Spidey doesn't seem to have the same heart that Slott's had. That's just my 2 cents. In this issue, Mr. Negative is back and is in cahoots with Mayor Fisk. As I said previously, we may be seeing a redux of the Spider-Verse movie plot.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to ask you about the Navigator thing because did that little reveal that happened that was just one off mentioned? Was that something that was actually always the case, or was that like a
reveal of? I mean, I have the spoiler bill if you want.
Sure. So, Martin Lee is talking to Aunt May while Spidey is fighting, or I guess before the fight kind of starts, and he kind of mentions to her that he's not the real Martin Lee. That Martin Lee is dead, and he took his name, or this person took his name. So I don't know if that was a thing that was already a thing with.
I don't know if that particular part of the mystery
Right.
had become clear to Aunt May or to the rest of the readership, but I know that I'm actually not 100% sure, but I'm fairly certain that May, obviously knew of the Mr. Negative connection. That's why, she had left the Feast Center and was trying to reopen it on her own in the wake of all the reveals of Mr. Negative, and his involvement. But I'm not 100% sure that that entire aspect of his origin was known to us and to the characters in the story.
Gotcha. Okay.
Anything else on that?
No, I think you pretty much covered.
Alrighty, next up for me is Daredevil #27. It's written by Chip Zdarsky, with art by Marco Cacchetto and Mike Hawthorne, inks by Marco Cacchetto and Adriano Di Benedetto. Colors by Marco Muniz and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. This is the second part of the King in Black crossover, and it sees Electra Devil, that's my little clever wordplay, take on a nullified Typhoid Mary, while Daredevil fights Null's attempt at possessing him while in Rikers Island. All right, next up is Eternals #2. It's written by Kieron Gillen with art by Esad Rabich, colors by Matthew Wilson, letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. In this issue, we have a battle between Icarus versus Thanos, with an assist from Sprite, possibly happening in the distant past. We're not sure. It seems that this may be happening in the present, but because there seems to be a flashback sequence, it's hard to tell. There is a mystery here, and the mystery of this opening story arc continues. It's enough, I think, to draw people in and to keep them coming back. If you are a fan of Esad Rabich's artwork, I think it's enough to keep you coming back. If you don't care for the Eternals, it's I think a tougher sell. But knowing that they are developing these characters for, I guess, a more broader presence in the Marvel universe, I think it's worth sticking to it and seeing where it goes.
I would argue also, if you're a fan of Kieron Gillen characters and books, then worth your time popping in on this. There is definitely a mystery going on here, which we definitely get that one way or the other, and or the other. But also, it seems, at least to me, like there is definitely a mystery to the reader, because I'm sitting here like, well, I kind of know what's going on here. I'm like, what is going on here? Because, like you said, with the fight and the time stuff, the fact that they just pretty much stopped the fight. It's like, hold on, here's this other story. We're just gonna have to we're just bring it in as a story before we get back to the main thing, which whether that is going to, come across to be anything
Right.
in the future or not. It's like, that was weird to just stop this whole fight, put this whole thing in the middle of it, and it's like, all right, now back to what we're transition back to what we were talking about before that.
Right.
That's all.
Alrighty, next for me is King in Black, Black Panther #1. Surprise, surprise, this is actually also another potential click of the week. It's actually pretty good. It's written by Jeffrey Thorne with art by Herman Peralta, who did a bang-up job on the first Maestro miniseries that we got earlier, late last year, earlier this year. Colors by Jesus Abertov and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. As I said earlier, this is a potential click of the week for me, believe it or not. It's not a normal thing for these one shots to be good enough to be eligible for click of the week, but this is one of those rare times. The art reflecting the invasion of Wakanda by the forces of Null is just really, really good. T'Challa and Shuri lead the defense of Bir Ninzana. Shuri comes up with a way to be in several places at once, while T'Challa improvises a way to fight off Null using a familiar foe's weapon together with the barrier defending the city. So I would actually recommend this to Roddykat, because I think it's one of the few one shots that I've seen so far that's actually worth reading, that's related to King in Black.
Interesting.
All right. So you did not have a chance to read Sword #3.
Correct.
So I will gloss over this and just go through the creative team of it's written by Al Ewing with art by Valerio Schiti and Ray Anthony Height and Bernard Chang and Nico Leon. It's a jam book. So, followed up with colors by Marte Grazia, letters by VC's Ariana Meyer. It's a story centered on Eden Fessy, aka Manifold, which clarifies how his powers work. Manifold makes a discovery about Henry Peter Gyrick, and to catch us up to the current major crossover, runs into Null. We know that Abigail Brand was dealing with the King in Black storyline in the previous issue. So this catches basically everyone up. This actually puts everyone on the Sword team into the King in Black crossover proper. Cool. And last but not least is X-Force number 17 for me. It's written by Benjamin Percy with art by Joshua Cassara, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. This is a Quentin Quire / Kid Omega and Phoebe Cuckoo centric story, which may reflect the Sapiens plans that have been brewing long before Ten of Swords. So without getting too deep into it, it's really a fun little story involving the two of them, but also a mystery as to what Sapiens may be up to. Yes.
Which brings up and Power Pack number 3. No rhyme. There you go. Written by Ryan North, art by Nico Leon, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, and by VC. So this is the 3rd issue of a 5-issue, and now the villain has revealed himself to the Power Pack sooner than expected. Now, granted, yes, I was just like 5. There's also a outlawed tie-in of sorts, which the fact that that's going on at this point is kind of crazy. That's there. And the villain, I guess, without spoiling it, is someone that at least a couple of the Power Pack kids have dealt with a person of some personal notes from their future Foundation date. Right there,
right.
It's kind of a spoiler, although none of that comes up. But the funny part about it is, like I said, that Taskmaster shows up in another book this week, and this is that book because apparently
he's also in Thunderbolts. Actually, that's what I kind of thought.
Yeah, so I haven't read Thunderbolts.
Not. It's actually not Thunderbolts. It's the King in Black Thunderbolts.
Right. Right. That's right. I did remember this. I do remember. But as of what I've read, Power Pack, and in dealing with Taskmaster, gets found out that their powers are not what they were before dealing with a mentor person that they've been and hence where the reveal of the villain that is behind things come about. And we also get it from the perspective of one Julie, not Julie, yeah, it is Julie Power, who is pretty much monologuing or narrating the whole thing until the end of there something ends up happening and may or may not have dire consequences. But more than likely it'll probably lead to powers again. But I doubt it because this
okay.
Yeah. Next up though is Darth Vader number 10, written by Greg Pak. Excuse me. Art by Raphael Ienco, colors by Niraj Menon, and lettering by Joe Caramagna. So it is Vader and this Ochi character trying to go get their way to Exgol, but they run into what almost amounts to an Imperial blockade because the Emperor pretty much sent 3 Star Destroyers out. Not necessarily delay, but pretty much deter Vader from doing whatever it is trying to do. Basically trying to kill him. So you see that happening all the while Vader is trying to deal with this space Cthulhu-esque looking thing that is blocking the way to how he both of those situations. It's a pretty good read. It's Vader being Vader. There's some flashbacks of stuff that we has that has also been volume of the. Let's see. Last but not least is G.I. Joe Real American Hero Yearbook #1. And the only thing I really have to say about that is just a reprint of the original G.I. Joe yearbook from like 1995, and it's written by a script by Lara Hama, pencils by Herb Trimpe, Trimp or Trimpy?
It's Trimp, I think.
Okay. Inks by Bob McLeod, letters by Jim Novak, and colors by Glennis Wayne. If you've
It's
never,
also got a new cover.
yes, it does.
It doesn't have what I noticed because we actually didn't have a copy of this in our review section. I was surprised to see this on your list, but I guess you went to get it. I looked at the cover. I pulled it up online, and I noticed that they did not reprint the cover that was done by the great Michael Golden, who did the first 2, I believe, G.I. Joe yearbooks. He did the first 2 covers, and there's some they're absolutely classic covers.
Mm-hmm. To which, you know what, I forgot. I don't know if they have like sometimes in IDW books they'll like put like a bunch of variant covers or whatnot in a lot of their books, or at least for the digital covers. I kind of just threw it.
Gotcha.
But I remember it.
It's a pretty cool thing, man. I definitely loved those yearbooks. I loved reading those yearbooks.
Yeah, same here. But yeah, and like I said, if you if you're reading Hama's current run of G.I. Joe Real American Hero right now and don't necessarily have the affinity for the classic stuff, which doing that. But again, there are new readers. You should definitely check that out. Definitely includes a layout of the pit and some some character or some character cards, like the yearbook tended. Oh, yep, they do have it. So original cover by Michael Golden. Back of the book, but
it's great stuff. The second yearbook is the killer cover. I don't know if you remember that one offhand. That's a phenomenal cover.
Yeah, I think looking up the date of the original date of this one, I think I did for that. But yeah, you should definitely check this out. It's a reprint of a classic book, which I was kind of wondering like what's it going to do, because this is not the first time that this has been reprinted by IDW at that. It's granted it has been probably a good almost, because I think when IDW got the license, a lot of that Marvel stuff, I think they pretty much collected it.
Yeah, wow, this is 85. Goodness gracious.
So there you go, folks. And that is it for me. We can now go to the week.
Clicks of the week.
The week, folks, and we have clicks from our other here. One of we start off with Dirt, which is Sweet Turn number. He says still not 100% sure what's going on, but he thinks that's the point. and he really, really, really wants to know. And for him, Future State, Teen Titans #2 said he's still not sure who Red X is in this context, but was an action-packed finale that has me looking at Academy. I didn't know it was just coming, which I also am actually kind of looking for. Hence to or this issue.
Okay.
First,
I am thinking about it still. I'm actually between a couple of books. One of them is Taskmaster. The other one is that surprise potential click of the week, which is King in Black, Black Panther #1. I think I'm going to stick with my gut though and go with Taskmaster #3 because I'm pretty sure I broke into laughs when I read Taskmaster's dialogue in his voice. Not that I know what his voice is really, other than maybe what the Marvel versus Capcom voice is, but I just imagine him being not the brightest guy. It's kind of a street level accent in my mind. And I hear him saying, "Oh, no, 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 no," because, guess what? Natasha Romanoff is right there ready to put a bullet between his eyes. So
right.
I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, so I go as you say that about his voice. I like I said earlier, I tend to go with Marvel Heroes version of him, which
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times in comics they kind of have him not necessarily a Southern accent, but it's kind of like a not necessarily kind of like a street level person.
Yeah.
As you just said, that kind of dialogue. You might hear him say a lot of Huns or whatever the case may be, but he doesn't necessarily do
Right.
that type of type of thing. I get what you're saying, and yeah, I have definitely read his voice that I love that voice. It's just kind of a gravelly voice, but it's also announcer type.
Sure, sure.
But for myself, I'm actually debating about going with you on that one. Definitely the most fun book I've read. Really, the Power Pack one was all right, but it's not enough to. You know what? Yeah, I'll go with that. Taskmaster #3. Because probably if I had read Future State Teen Titans, or I know it was one of the other ones, or that Radiant Black book, I probably would. I am quite interested. So there you go, folks. Those are the clicks of the week, and we're going to transition over into the news section. But first,
Go-
an ad read. Excuse
yeah,
me. Sorry.
exactly. We're going to get our first ad read in for the night. Our first ad read is for Funko. Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles, such as their world famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel, including t shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise, such as their custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
Yes, folks, it is the news, and we start off with the cinematic news as we do every time. Starting with Deadline has confirmed that playwright Stacy Osei-Kuffour, I hope I'm pronouncing it right and not apologize, has signed on to pen the Blade reboot from Disney and Marvel. Two-time Oscar-winning actor Mahershala Ali will be stepping into the role of the character, the half vampire, half. We knew that order. That was probably one of the whole thing about. No director has been announced, and Marvel has no comment. Apparently, this Borg becomes the first Black woman in a Marvel movie, following the news of Nia DaCosta directing Marvel. Osei-Kuffour's writing credits include HBO's Watchmen, Amazon's Hunters, and the Hulu series Teen Witch, which stands for something, but for which she earned an Emmy nom for Outstanding Writer for a series. And I know a lot of people like that HBO's Watchmen. Good get, I guess.
Next up, Michael B. Jordan revealed that he is willing to return as Killmonger in Black Panther 2 if it's needed. While he can't comment on the upcoming sequel, he would love to return to the MCU. He states that he can't say too much about that one, honestly, with the year that we've had and the loss of a dear friend, referring to Chadwick Boseman. They were figuring out whatever they need to do and what was best for the franchise, but they're family. So if he ever had the opportunity to get back into that franchise, he would. So, death is never permanent for these characters.
That is true, but also Disney Marvel sniper.
That too.
But yeah, given the events of, I'm not, again, like you said, character permanence in comic book or are wherein has not shown it to be themselves that way. So the fact that he come back in some way, not of a flashback type,
right,
would be interesting how they pulled it. Although, given the couldn't happen,
right,
despite what we know. Next up, though, we get into our WandaVision block.
Yeah, I was about to say we could talk about the incredible stuff that we learned on episode 5.
Oh, we are definitely going to get into that. We're definitely going to get into. Let's go ahead and get. Apparently, Newsarama has a theory that Arnim Zola could be pulling the string here, and that's kind of a stretch. I'm not going to get into it, but let's just say it has something to do with the amount of TVs. Why I say it's not impossible, of a stretch. Next up,
I mean, considering that he had been reduced to living in databanks as of his last appearance in Winter Soldier, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that he literally downloaded his consciousness into just another computer before the bombing run decimated the data tapes that he was on. And so that's, I'm not that I'm backing up that theory, but it's not the worst theory in the world.
Right. And I guess given that he also has had some dealings with Cosmic Q, I guess the Mind Stone at this point, because no, because in the first Captain America, was it? Where Zola showed up? Wait, where Zola show up?
The first, you mean his first appearance was in Captain America: The First Avenger,
right? And that was the
that was the
Cosmic Cube,
Tesseract,
right? Yeah, that's right, Cosmic Cube. But
right?
so he's definitely have some knowledge of uh where some aspect of Wanda's powers come from. I still, regardless.
Right.
So yeah, we don't know. But I
Right.
think
But we can't
this
put right. We can't, at this point we are still roughly halfway through, so many theories are still in play.
yeah, and I think a lot of people just like throwing out crazy
Clickbait.
Yep. And seems to be one of them. But that's also theory crafting is not a bad former like that's some good creative writing, but you can't possibly think that stands. And I
You
think there's another
never
theory that we come
know.
across. Yeah, there's another theory that comes up and it's like, okay, that's good, but also they even go so far as to say that that might not be the case. We recognize that, but I'm just next up though.
Never know. Alrighty. One moment. Next up, Jimmy Woo X-File style spin-off show is already being pitched to Marvel. So the viral idea for an X-File style WandaVision spin-off starring Jimmy Woo, aka Randall Park, is already going to be officially pitched to Marvel. So it began as a viral idea. And I want to say I read that so Stephen Ford originally tweeted the suggestion of the spin-off, and a few days after making calls and sending emails, which overlapped with the idea gaining more support, Stephen Ford confirmed that he's actually going to officially pitch his idea to Marvel soon. So that's pretty interesting that someone with uh, uh, someone within the industries it was thinking out loud, and all of a sudden after a bit of writing is getting a chance to pitch this idea.
True, but a person like this would have an
Oh, of
as
course.
opposed to other people as not come up with
Well,
anything. And we're not
it's
saying that
nice
this is
to
going to
have,
come up with
yeah, I
anything
was about to
either.
say
But
it's definitely worth it's definitely nice that someone with a history of a history in the industry, especially in writing, would have obviously much more of an easier time getting in the door with a pitch like that.
and a white male. Anyway,
Ah,
so
you're right,
you know
of
it's
course.
true.
But at the same time, he did come up with the idea.
Oh yeah, but again, somebody else could have done that. So, but here's why I'm
I'm
bringing.
just saying he literally put it out there.
Exactly. But yeah, but I'm saying, but people, I've been on Twitter all the time, and people put out like some really good ideas, like it go, as opposed to this one. But so outside of that, here's how I feel about it. There were people on Twitter was like, "Yes, this is a great idea. This should happen," and then obviously add Darcy and Monica Rambeau to this, and they'll watch it, and this and that and the other. And I'm like, "Yeah, this is all right." I'm kind of half and half on it because I feel like, yes, Agents of Shield was a different animal, but also I feel like this is kind of the thing that they were doing at the beginning of it. They were kind of sort of doing X Files type within the MCU reasoning. Not to the extent of I guess what they would probably be having me do. But I
Mhm.
feel like they were doing that. Even the shorts that came out of it where Coulson and some other person was kind of like investigating. Or hey, even the first Thor movie where Coulson was like, "Hey, we're here to investigate," this, that, and the other. I feel like this kind of been a thing that done all. And like I said, Agents of Shield was kind of doing that in the beginning. We're kind of going off on. I don't know. It's just me. I'd watch it if it happens, but I feel like this is kind of already happened and nobody watched that one.
Well, I think we know why people fell off. That's the thing. And I think where any sort of tie-in show with that type of setup
Right. Which is some of
flourish
this.
on Disney Plus because it's in-house.
Well, that And the fact that when Agent Seal came out, people were like, "Why is it not tying more closer to the movies than blah blah?" In fact, some people have said the same thing about WandaVision. That's that part.
Well, I was about to say that's just dumb as opposed to,
Also,
as opposed to an unfortunate fact of production. With regards to the ABC shows.
right. But I'm just saying, but
ABC,
yeah,
the nature of the ABC show.
right. Yeah, but I'm agreeing the fact that very much also dumb. That
Well,
people
I
are
mean,
thinking.
they can both be true. So, it's dumb for people to say, "Oh, it should tie in closer," because people are just impatient. So,
As we have actually seen WandaVision. Talk about the first 3 episodes, but we've talked about it about
mm-hmm.
that. That being said, though, like I said, yeah, I would watch it, but kind of a thing that's kind of already been done before in the MCU. But well, with Agents of Shield to a point. So to a
I
point.
was gonna say yeah. I would say yes and no because I think they took Agents of Shield in that direction. It's think of it like this. They tried to do that in the first couple of seasons because they were basically waiting for Winter Soldier.
Well,
And
yeah,
then they took it in
pretty
their
much
own
every
direction.
season, right? Pretty much every season kind of went off of the movie that was tied into. Yes, they definitely did, but it was still a fact that they were investigating along the same similar lines. But then, like I said, I think after season 4, well, actually 4 probably they kind of went off on their own, even though they did.
I mean, I don't remember too much of Agents of Shield at this point because that is now we're going back a decent way now. So
I wanna, because I know there's I was at the end of season 4 when I off of it, not the wanting to watch it, reverse stuff, and I believe not having access to. um, but cable companies, weird things happen. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of,
I did the last one.
speaking of that whole this next couple is going to be about this whole spinoff. But WandaVision's Jimmy Woo suits up for potential spinoff in mock-up art, and one of the 2 of the mock-up art set. Because after the pitch and after the Twitter post and the pitch, um, uh, Stephen Ford also did a mock-up of Randall Park in a Jimmy Woo-esque shirt and gun holster, basically superimposed. He basically superimposed, which makes me even want this even less. Because usually, like, I'm not saying Randall Park is what he is. He's a good actor and good and stuff, but and he's also I've also talked about last week about how I felt about his version of and some of that he actually does play into during the course of WandaVision, but I don't know. There's just something weird about it. Seeing him like this, something like I'm not sure how I feel about that. Regardless, it's out there. If you haven't seen it, it's our show note. Next up.
Right. So this is the other kind of fan art where the digital artist Boss Logic created a Jimmy Woo spin-off series fan poster that has that plays into the close-up magic card trick that we saw Jimmy pull off in his intro scene in episode 4. So that is it's a pretty cool callback to that particular scene. So it's it's another bit of hype, I guess, or fan art to maybe get the ball rolling on that.
Sure, and Boss Logic, as we've talked about in the past, a lot of people know. Sure, there you go. I kind of like this one, but at the same time, it's not necessarily showing Randall Park's face. Yeah, this didn't know it came from him would be a good plausible markup for an actual series. But next up, apparently Randall Park and Kat Dennings heard about the pitch, and it was like, yeah, they're in.
That works. Yeah, they're in.
So let's see about the concept. Park told comicbook.com, I've heard that, and I didn't know that, but I learned that today. Amazing, and I would be down if Kevin Feige wanted that. Heartbeat, of course, do it. Feige is. We don't even have to go on it. Apparently, also Kat Dennings heard, and I've heard the rumblings of people saying that, which I will take salt. But I mean, I'll work with Randall Park any day. They do work off each other quite well. I definitely have enjoyed going off of each.
Well, they both have they have good comic sensibilities. And I think that, that's obviously the part where I know that you kind of differ with how Jimmy Woo should be portrayed, but then I would say that there's still room for that.
And it does still, like I said, it does still kind of come across too during
right.
During the WandaVision. So I'm not saying that it's not there. Like, from the top of it is kind of weird. But that being said, yeah, like again, like I said, I would watch this. And I believe I've seen the other one where they were like, yeah, them two would be arguing with each other, and Monica would come in and be like, all right, can we like get past this brass tag? So she'd like the straight person, and I would I watch it. Watch it. But yeah, there you go. Next up.
Alrighty. Yeah, this is kind of a callback to what we get at the end of episode 5, which was definitely shocking. And, spoiler alert, obviously it's a week old, but for anyone who hasn't watched episode 5 of WandaVision yet, you definitely need to skip this part. We've talked about some of the things that we get, but this is essentially the big reveal. And the headline here, and I'll ring the spoiler bell just because, that's what we do. So yeah, at the end of episode 5, there is a reveal where apparently WandaVision, according to the silly I forget the word, this hyperbolic headline, where WandaVision cracked the MCU open with a $71.3 billion cameo. That $71.3 billion price tag refers to the cost of the Fox movie the Fox movie studio acquisition made by Disney. So essentially what we get at the end of WandaVision episode 5 is an appearance allegedly by Pietro Maximoff, but played by none other than Evan Peters, the actor who played Pietro Maximoff in the X-Men movies. And that's the big, jaw-dropping reveal that I don't know how you reacted, but I was, my tweeted, my Instagrammed reaction was,
holy mother forking shirt balls.
Literally.
I was wondering where that sound bit was going to come into play, and okay, that makes sense.
It'll come up, for fans of The Good Place. You'll know that, it's a great way to skirt around the fact that we try to keep it family friendly for the most part. But I definitely wanted to express how absolutely dumbstruck, awestruck, all the sort of strucks that you got under the sun I was when that popped up on my screen, watching that over breakfast. last Friday morning. So it was pretty impressive to me. How did you feel?
So when you messaged me right after that, and you were like, yeah, you may want to definitely out of. I recall when after I watched it, like a day later, and messaged you back on that. Definitely, my initial reaction was, "Oh snap!" You know, like damn, they did that. I wasn't really expecting. Like I figured something that could possibly happen, and there's always been speculation of there's been some crossover and stuff. So and obviously them setting up them possibly all the speculations, but I was not absolutely that.
Right.
But it was like, okay, all right, let's go. But also, it was also funny when Darcy's
Oh yes.
reaction to it. Just like, wow, she recast Pietro, and I was like, okay, yeah, that part right in itself. Just like I was like, still kind of like, okay, yeah, that's kind of dope. That
right. I mean that's as meta as it gets. Totally reading the audience with that one.
Right, and actually going back, if you think about it, kind of going back to like if you go back to like granted, if they had done this in that part, the first season, so that would have been also something else because, but they wouldn't have done it in the case because it wouldn't have. Wherein if you've ever watched the old Bewitched shows, there were two Darrens. I know that was from people of a certain vintage that were up right now, and this could potentially kind of harken back to that also,
right?
To where they recast recast the main dude, or not necessarily. They recasted the dude. Has some thing. Obviously, in the case would be Vision being recast, but that's unless something had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Not. Regardless, I enjoyed it. The whole episode in itself, which we can actually get into. So we kind of.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're skirting around it,
Yeah.
but we did ring the spoiler bell, so feel free.
Yeah, so, and actually at this point, I don't have any notes on it, and I vaguely remember outside of that part happened. So we do see another time, if I remember correctly, we do see another time shift. We definitely get another theme song, which is more 80s / kind of 90s sitcom fare.
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s, definitely. Like
There's a
it
little bit of
harkens to the opening, harken to both Full House and Family Ties.
Right, and I was gonna get to and a little bit of Growing Pains, a little bit, but yeah. Well, actually, the or Growing Pains, but there's a little bit of Growing Pains in. But definitely, like you said, the Family Ties, Full House, which I still have a problem. I love the fact that they're evoking the old theme song spirits, but the me paying attention to the lyrics, which I probably shouldn't that much, is still kind of off because like I know what they're doing, I get it, I'm there, but it's like weirdly off to a point of kind of taking me out of it for the theme songs that they, the theme songs that they've doing. But actually, even in the end credit scene, because you can even see hear the more Growing Pains, Family Ties influence in also. That being said, though, so yeah, there's a time jump, and we're in like the late '80s, kind of sort of, and we have the scene where the Wanda's trying to deal with the babies. Not to go into too far about it, but if you haven't seen it, Wanda's dealing with the babies, and Vision's also they're dealing with the babies, and uh, you know, it's kind of that kind of sitcom trope where babies are crying and they're trying to do hush them up, and in comes Agnes, possibly Agatha Harkness, who kind of comes in as she does in her lovely bombastic style, um, and attempts to try to do the same thing, but there seems to be what would be considered a stop in the action when Vision kind of quote unquote goes off script, and
right,
and Agnes is like, and or what? How we want to play this? Vision's kind of dumbfounded, and Wanda's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Huh? Like, we still don't know whether she's like, we kind of get the sense that, like, at this point, knowing, what's kind of sort of going on with her, she's acting like she doesn't know what's going on, but she kind of has this impression that.
Right.
So that kind of goes, and then thing kind of continues on after that, but Vision's still like, what's going on here? And then we also get another thing, I guess, outside of what happens at the end. The other bigger thing was, one, the twins age up, like, again, sometimes happen in sitcoms fair, but you see them literally age up right before your eyes.
Right.
I we have come to find out it was on their own accord, because of something that happens. But also, we also get some shades of the Vision, Tom King Vision, Gabriel Walter, that miniseries.
Yeah, Gabriel Hernandez Walter. Yeah.
Yes. That miniseries in the form of Sparky also comes in. And if you've read that miniseries, I don't know what happens to Sparky, which kind of happens here, sadly.
Yep.
But that leads into some trademark sitcoms, a very special episode thing have to do with happens, and Agnes there and Sparky and the kid. There's the very special talk that kind of happens leading up to what happens that we've already talked about at the end of the show. I mean, at the end of the episode, which the appearance of Pietro. I think that's pretty much and all, obviously on the other side of this, you see do we of everybody on the outside watching this stuff. Oh wait, no, that happened in this issue where Wanda goes outside. I think that does happen. Yes. Oh no, that was the other thing that happened. Yes.
Right. Happens at the end.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a big thing. So basically,
I was about to say, you may want to pull up a episode recap. So just to give yourself, because that's what that's what I'm gonna do now, just to remind myself, because it has been a week.
Yeah. But yeah, we've pretty much gone through them for sure. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and do that, yeah, that thing that happened also, before, but before the big, if I'm not mistaken, Wanda comes outside of the Hex, as they call it, or as they're starting to call it, as basically say, y'all leave me alone. Even takes the drone that they put in that did happen in this episode.
Yeah. What ends up happening is that they there's a couple of subplots that are developing as a result of what we see in this episode. One is that the new interim director of Sword may not have Wanda's best interests at heart. Definitely goes against what we initially thought would be the approach. What ends up happening is that as they kind of get a debriefing from Monica Rambeau, what they opt to do is send in something that is, and the theory that they employ is essentially correct. What they try to do is send in something that is period specific. And what they do is send in a 90s era drone to try to make contact, but instead of it being unarmed, it ends up being armed, and they try to make a move against Wanda, and it all goes very badly.
Right. Unbeknownst to everybody, well, unbeknownst to Monica Rambeau,
right,
probably Darcy, but the director and the other folks definitely knew.
Oh, they definitely knew about it.
Yeah. So needless to say, Wanda comes outside with the drone in hand and like, drop this back at him, like, look, alone. And in a move that basically says, as folks have been saying on the internet, mess around and find out. Wanda pretty much was like, look, I'm being nice about this, leave me alone, but mess around and find out what happens. It comes to basically turned the tables on the director. Not necessarily turned the tables on the
Right.
director, but lets her know that seriously wants to be Brown left alone before
Right.
she went X, and I guess put some more protections up as she goes
Mm,
back in.
possibly. There's a couple of things that do play into this decision, though. Did you mention the fact that they allegedly have video evidence of how Wanda reclaims Vision's android corpse?
I did not mention, but that does also, yeah, the
Right.
director
So that
coincidentally
is
comes up
part
with
of the
that.
briefing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That is part of the briefing to that starts the road down the more aggressive stance taken by Sword against Wanda. It's meant to inform us of how we've gotten to this point and how in fact Wanda reclaims the Vision's body. There is evidence in that very video that it seems like Sword was probably experimenting upon the Vision's body, and we're left to guess that Sword probably did not have the purest of motives when it was doing that, because we know what happens when Sword and Shield and agencies like that get their hands on tech that they need to understand. They end up weaponizing it. So that is, I guess, part of what's implied here. So um, as I mentioned, Wanda essentially liberates the Vision's corpse, and that's where this more aggressive stance against Wanda, has its origins. And as Roddykat is going to mention, there is a confrontation. Well, he's already mentioned it, but there's a big confrontation between Hayward. Is it Hayward?
It is.
Right. Between the head of Sword and Wanda um and the strike. I don't want to call them the strike teams, because the strike team has a specific reference in Winter Soldier, but basically a group of operators who are responding to the breach of the Westview field.
Right. So going back a second, going off of what Agent 70 said. So, well, one, uh, there is some comic book history to go along with that because, as some folks may know, a similar thing as far as Vision being disassembled and being studied thing actually happened in comic books. So this is definitely a play off of that. Two, part of me when looking at that video feels like it was either faked or like it was seems convenient that he just so happens to drop that video in right there. Now, and we see her like infiltrate the place and get to the body. We don't see her necessarily taking it out. And that's slightly irrelevant because we know she totally did something. Probably
Mhm.
did something, and there's no reason to believe that the video is not necessarily has some basis in reality. But it seemed kind of convenient that the director just so happens to have that in to bring it out now as opposed to before now, if they already had that. Because I feel like that's something he already had on him, but he waited till then to for whatever reason. No, so there's some still speculation about his role in there and things. Um, but nevertheless, like there's that. Um, and yeah, people have pretty much come out and was like, yeah, we don't like this. That kind of already been
Mhm.
for reasons I did not understand until now.
Right.
But nevertheless, I think that was pretty much just before we get. But that whole scene where Wanda just kind of comes out and be like, "You stop this," and what ends up happening at where the tables get turned, it was like, "Oh snap!" Yeah, she's definitely
Right.
kind of come into her powers.
Exactly. And I think you mentioned a little bit of this, but the Vision is also figuring out what's going on, because when he's at work, he essentially um, uh, snaps Norm, one of his coworkers, out of the trance that he's in.
Mm.
But he essentially has to put him back in because he's going to, because things will get ugly if he is in his right mind for too long.
Right.
So Vision puts him back under the influence so that they can maintain the charade. But Vision is definitely figuring things out as we go along as well. You know, the kind not maybe not at the same. Well, I would say at the same speed as the viewer.
Right. And from that actually, yeah, because he pretty much does the same thing he does to Ultron in Age of Ultron. He just kind of just goes into it, fires him, sort. But he, like you said, talking to Storm, trying to keep the shade up, but also leads to Wanda having the big fight that they have, almost basically rearing up on each other, which seemed kind of weird, but not so weird for them. These two folks that have power, because obviously, you know, sometimes things get heated when you're having an argument with your significant other. Not to the point where you're throwing blows or anything like that. Like that seemed like they could have possibly done, but you know, temper flares and things get heightened as they did, leading up to the definite big, which Vision's like did. Wanda pretty much was like, I didn't do that, which we don't know that she didn't do, and she may not know that she, but she put it that way. She may have actually did it. That no. And we still don't know, you know, even with the reveal, what is going on behind that. We are a few hours away from the next episode of WandaVision recording.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very much looking forward to that, to see if that actually plays out like we believe it will. Or if that is indeed Pietro, and that is indeed Pietro from the Foxverse, the former Foxverse universe.
Right.
And obviously there have been theories from that saying that he pulled them from the Foxverse. My theory is I think that whole Westview might have already been in the Foxverse, and he just so happened to be in that world. But she did definitely pull them to him. Like if anything is as plausible as anything else in that moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we don't. No one knows a thing.
Right. You know, I hate to parrot the line, watch, wait, and see, right? But at the end of the day, they have done a phenomenal job of stringing this along and keeping the suspense up.
Yep.
And and I would say, just in very broad strokes, I don't think anybody expected after a year, and we, I always kind of poo-pooed it because of the pandemic, right? It's just a fact. It's just life happening, that we went a year without any real new Disney Marvel content, and now we've got not a movie, but 9, possibly 10 episodes of WandaVision that has become maybe not appointment television in the traditional sense, but let's put it this way: if you don't watch it on Friday, you are staying away from any sort of media, social or otherwise, that might spoil it for you until you watch it, and then you'll have a chance to discuss it. It's basically taking over a lot of the discussion from Friday, whenever, Friday at 3 a.m., 3 a.m. Eastern, midnight Pacific, when it finally drops. It takes over the vast majority of social media until the latter part of the weekend.
Right, and there are some people who are definitely like, because I've seen in a couple of different places online where people are like, well, what do I do until the next episode of WandaVision? Because there's definitely some people that are treating this like must see TV. If you're of a certain vision, you know that reference.
Exactly.
But yeah, now that we are only a few hours away from it, there's a little bit more into with some people I know about it, including myself.
Of course. It all depends on whether or not I get up early enough to watch it over breakfast, or if it's something that I have to wait until lunch for. So we'll see. But it's definitely something I'm looking forward to, and it's created. If we were all going into the office and sipping water on the water cooler, maybe they wouldn't put this out on a Friday. But because we're home, it's interesting that they have the opportunity to put it out on a Friday, and we're all basically jumping online to talk about it all weekend.
I don't know.
You know?
Yeah, there's the whole TGIF thing, which granted is not the same. Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Right. The only reason why I mention this is I believe they talked about this on Fat Man Beyond with Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin, where they related this to the example of the HBO kind of whatchamacallit? What's the term? What's the TV term? Like highfalutin. It's the
Prestige TV or something like that.
no. It's not like more serious fare. There's a term for it. It's
Sure.
prestige television. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Oh, did you say that?
Yeah.
You probably said it too quickly. I didn't. I was still trying to come up with it. So,
yeah.
the prestige TV shows that were the source of HBO's run on Emmy nominations back in the day.
Sure.
Those were put out on Sunday evenings because one, it was the end of the weekend, and two, it gave people a chance to talk about it when they went back into the office on Monday.
Right. Yeah, like your Game of Thrones and in shorter strokes, your Insecures.
I was about to say Sopranos.
Yeah, Sopranos, and but back in the day, because I guess Sopranos was out. Well, ended pretty much during the 80s. I guess. Case, but et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But those are more the two I mentioned were more recent.
Right.
Note.
Right, and fall into the Sunday night prestige TV release. So it's interesting that that we're getting this on a Friday, so we have all weekend to kind of chit chat about it. So
I kind of wonder about that actually, because like would it? I don't know. That would be something to think about. Like, would this be something they would treat that manner if things were quote unquote normal, or would they still do this?
It's interesting to think about, but like I said, at the end of the day, it's become the rough equivalent of that. Just on a different day, so that it has a different side effects and ramifications of coming out on a Friday. So, it's one thing for a lot of people to really look forward to, kind of kicking off the weekend with it.
I'll probably mention this again in a couple of articles on. But it's actually made me, and I may have mentioned this last week, kind of made me a little bit more excited about Talking to Winter Soldier and definitely Loki.
I mean, I was already excited.
I mean, yes, but I'm just saying. But given what they have been doing with WandaVision, it's like, oh, they kind of throwing it out there. They're giving us the goods.
Well, they're taking big swings. That's the term I heard, and I agreed with that. They're definitely taking big swings with it, and they're definitely using some of the I guess theories, but that they use behind setting up the different types of MCU movies, where they would make a spy movie that happens to star Captain America. They would make a heist movie that happens to star Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Right.
So that's what I think they're doing. They're definitely putting the story ahead of a lot of things.
Working, despite what some people feel about the first three. And like, if they had to continue a couple of episodes with which it kind of still going the way they were still going with the first three episodes, I would still been forward with it. I was enjoying it regardless. But there is also to the point that while these are shows, they still do have a type quality to them.
Oh, of course.
I don't know what once at the end what a full cut would be like to watch, all the way through, especially the way it's set up. But it's still like some of that is still probably still work, or like they cut down hours outset of. But yeah, anyway,
I mean, this episode alone was, I think, more than 35 minutes.
I believe it's like it was like upwards 40, I believe.
Yeah, close to 40, right? So we're definitely getting movie, more than a movie and a half, maybe 2 movies worth of content here, 2+ movies worth of content here in this series.
So it's been great. But moving right along, unless you got something else
No. I was just going through the summary just to make sure that we didn't miss talking about anything that was on the important side.
Sure.
So we're good.
Next up, though, WandaVision shares a totally tubular poster starring Catherine Hahn's Agnes. So yeah, this is also based from definitely of WandaVision. So the S-style poster appeared on the Disney Plus Twitter page Monday, featuring Han's character decked out in her best 80s style, neon colored apparel, big hair and all. One totally tubular signal. The fall ad proclaims for distinctly 80s style television. Find your happy vibe with a brand new TV at a dealer. TVs have been a big thing. People have definitely noted it about how the TV plays into WandaVision, or what they think the TV plays into WandaVision, which sounds plausible. By the way, folks, some people might not, and I just thought about. I didn't just thought about this, but it was recalled to me that Catherine Hahn, who's excellent in WandaVision, by the way, was also the voice of Olivia Octavia's Spider-Verse. And I totally did not put that together. But she was cool in that. So, and then I know other people was like, yeah, pretty much most of the stuff she's been in, she's been good at. Including playing this over the top, a little over the top, no type character. WandaVision. Cool stuff. Next up.
All right, next up, WandaVision's new supposedly spoilery toy leak was debunked by Diamond because they are the creators of the Diamond Select Toys, that is, are the creators of the Mini-Mates toys. So a Twitter account shared an image of what looked to be the packaging for new Mini-Mates figures from WandaVision, showing art for Scarlet Witch and Mephisto toys, and called a leak, but the leak was debunked by Diamond Comics Toys, or Diamond Select Toys, that is, the makers of Mini-Mates. They confirmed the purported product is not real, and it was just a scam.
Right, because I believe we did. We actually, I'm not sure if we did. Now that I think about it, I want to say if we reported on this last, we may not have been. But I kind of figured even then is like, yeah, somewhat right about this. So the fact that they came out and debunked it, kind of so cool. Next up, though, from the land of Spidey and going, well, I guess starting to leave away from WandaVision, Spider-Man: Far From Home had a hidden WandaVision Easter egg. You probably so yeah, the short strokes is like, hey, Nick Fury on the ship, and if watching the video, you can check this out. You see Nick Fury passing a panel as he's going through the ship. Potentially that is that may or may not be the. We haven't necessarily established that, but we have a relatively idea that that's probably the case. But anyway, he passes the panel and it has a hexagon on it, and as folks know, hexagons have been playing into a lot of people's or just even in general in WandaVision at large. So obviously this is a theory that is built around that. But it's also noted in this theory that in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the space warp stuff that the basically the act of warping also uses so they definitely do note that in, so that could also be that. Nothing to do with WandaVision. Doesn't stop people from speculating. There you go. Next up,
ahead of its debut next month, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier get new Twitter emojis showing off their updated costumes. Once upon a time, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier were set to be the first MCU series to premiere on Disney Plus. It was originally planned for August of 2020, but production delays caused by COVID-19 forced Marvel to push it back. Now, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier will premiere on March 19th, 2 weeks after WandaVision wraps up its run. It will be the second project from Phase 4 to drop.
Yep, there you go. And there was some speculation before, when WandaVision dropped, that while we got a couple of episodes, kind of get out. I think we've talked about this, kind of get out of the way of Falcon and Winter, which is plausible at this point. But that being said, speaking of Falcon and Winter, and going on to some other things, so the Super Bowl happened here in the U.S. This past weekend. I didn't watch it, and I actually didn't even watch all the commercials that I normally would, or I didn't get to watch the Puppy Bowl or the Kitten. That's neither. We got trailers for Falcon and Winter Soldier, a couple other things, but also Fast and Furious.
Mm-hmm. Screw Tom Brady.
Y'all idiots calling him the GOAT. Anyway, it is not even the GOAT in football. Anyway, I don't even follow football. Anyway, so the Falcon and Winter Soldier trailer kind of came out during the thing. There was also a Rey and the Last Dragon. Did you watch any of these? Trailers?
I watched the Falcon and Winter Soldier and the F9, the Fast and Furious 9.
So the Falcon and Winter, the one that's pertinent this crowd outside Fast and Furious, obvious, is the Falcon and Winter Soldier one, which I liked how they're leaning into the buddy cop thing. They seem to be leaning into the buddy cop thing. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I mean, they've also been doing that in the comics of Falcon and Winter Soldier mini. So that's, and obviously this is something from they had already established. I'm not saying that is a new thing. They seem to be they had. I'm very curious. Drops next. But outside of that, the F9 trailer was as bonkers as you would think. Not necessarily bonkers, but it's like, of course, it's still going to be some more of this other stuff. See one car just get pulled into like Magneto style into like through a truck and a couple other different, a couple other things. It's like, I'm definitely looking forward to S9.
So all I have to say is justice for Han. Next up, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier trailer revealed ER and Bosch star Amy Aquino. Yeah. What would you say?
I think it's Bosch. Almost certainly Bosch. But anyway,
it revealed Amy Aquino in a Marvel role. Veteran actress Amy Aquino joins the Marvel Cinematic Universe in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier in the upcoming original series from Marvel Studios. She plays a mediator for squabbling superhero Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I remember her as Dr. Coburn on ER, and she's gone and she's done many, many things since.
Yeah. I also reckon. I was like, oh, shoot. Because she's almost one of those actors who's like, I know the name, but she's horrible.
Right. Exactly.
I was like, okay, that was cool. I remember seeing her from somewhere. Yeah, that whole scene with her and them, that was kind of fun. That being the case, move on to Disney Channel announces Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur cast, which I don't know if this came out in that call. I think this was in that Investor Day call, or it might have been before that. I don't remember. But regardless, there's a Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur cartoon that is on the way, and we now have some casting. Actress and singer Diamond White will star as Lunella Lafayette, and the channel's highly anticipated animated series slated to premiere. And that's not all. We have one Alfre Woodard playing Lunella's grandmother Mimi, Libby Barra as Lunella's best friend Casey, Sashir Zamata from Saturday Night Live as Lunella's mom Adria, Jermaine Fowler as her dad James Jr., Fred Tatasciore, who we know from playing various versions of Hulk in the last couple of events elsewhere, as the one and only Devil Dinosaur, and Gary Anthony Williams, I believe, Boondocks, as Lunella's grandfather, Pops. There you go. Apparently, Lawrence Fishburne also has something to executive producer of this and will voice the Beyonder. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I don't know how my interest level
Yeah.
in this was before this casting, which yeah, I was definitely wanting to check this out, but okay, cool.
Mhm.
It's another animated thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the one thing we knew about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur was the fact that Lawrence Fishburne was
Right.
executive producing or producing the show. I think that was the one bit of information we had from the investor call.
Indeed.
This is definitely filling in some of the blanks. All right. Next up, in kind of silly news, fans quote unquote demand for season 3 of the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon, which was really good that ended back in 2008, but or started in 2008. So, more than a decade since its debut, fans of the Spectacular Spider-Man took to Twitter asking for one more season of the beloved Spidey-centered animated series. Hashtag Save Spectacular Spider-Man began trending on Twitter on February 6th, showing an outpouring of fans who'd love to see another installment. Back in December of last year, 2020, co-creator Greg Weisman shot down the odds of a third season, but that hasn't stopped fans from asking for more Spider-Man tales. It essentially stopped being produced when the television rights to Spider-Man were bought by Disney, while the movie rights to Spider-Man remained with Sony. Back then, that essentially was the primary cause of the ending of the Spectacular Spider-Man show.
Indeed. Yeah, and we had talked about it back then, even when the reason as to why, and it was all mired in like, or not just license, but it was a whole big why happened. But also, I think we said then that I wouldn't be surprised if people would still do it. They'll be trying to do this specific thing. To try to get it out back out there. So it was definitely something that goes in Wiseman's and Crew's favor. Maybe this is something that could be hashed out, or work something out, knowing that the fans want it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of how Young Justice kind of came back, and Wiseman is also a part of that, and was also coming out around that part, saying, I mean, granted, different situation because the things behind the scene on that were a little bit more cut and dry. But it happened, so anything can happen. And I want to give a shout out real quick to just real quick for to the folks that have happened to pop in the Twitch chat. If y'all got questions, you know, let us know if you do. But I appreciate anybody for dropping in and on the YouTubes and everybody else watching live. Appreciate y'all being here.
All right. You can always tweet at us as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Which we'll get into all of that later. So next up, Tom Holland calls the next Spider-Man movie the most ambitious standalone superhero movie ever made. We love Tom Holland. Actor Tom Holland says that the currently untitled third Spider-Man MCU film is, like I said, repeat that, in an interview with Variety. He says, and a quote, I can say that it's the most ambitious superhero made, Tom said. You sit down, you read the script, and you see what they're trying to do, and they're succeeding. Really impressive. I've never seen a standalone superhero movie quite like it. I'm just, you know, that lucky little who happens to be Spider-Man in. We got a lot more shooting to do. Started before Christmas and shot like 7 weeks. Stopped before the Christmas break and starting again. So I'm excited as everyone else to be a part of it. And as far as we know, he didn't spoil in anything as he is wont to do. I think the Marvel snipers probably said got to him. But
or they're just not telling him the entire story.
I think that's probably more the case. Yes.
You know, they're using the same tactics that they used on Endgame, where they're giving out bits and pieces of the script at a time.
And that's totally still believe. And I think we talked about this before that they when they him and Ruffalo some of the stuff.
Right.
The league. I'm actually looking forward to it, and I'm hoping it's going to address of Spider-Man 2. I have no reason to believe.
That's part of our right. I was about to say that's part of our next story.
Yep.
So in our next story, Sony has revealed some of the fallout of Spidey's identity reveal that happened at the end of Far From Home. In the unfortunately named Illuminati captured images of the story on the official at Spidey #1 fan account, which was created for Spider-Man Far From Home. This is I guess this was the Instagram account.
That could very well be the.
Hard to say. I'm not going to check it right now, but it's the story that teased a number of potential plot elements for the third film in the MCU Spidey trilogy. The account shared 2 polls and a picture from the Daily Bugle website that was teased in the post-credits scene of Far From Home. The account, which is meant to be Flash Thompson's social media feed, posted a poll about whether Spider-Man or Night Monkey is the better hero, and one asking whether Betty or Ned is better. The first described Spider-Man as a menace, providing that once Spidey was outed as Peter, Flash turned against his former hero and began using Jameson's description of the wall crawler. Interestingly, the Ned poll features the character in an orange hobgoblin-style hat, which is a nod to Ned Leeds' comic book history as the villain and possibly teasing a dark turn for the man in the chair.
Indeed. So yeah, and if you're watching the video version of this, you will see posts. I didn't know that account was even a thing. Probably have had I known, unless I know official one, I gone to it.
Right. Allegedly, I was about to say, there's more to this. Apparently, one of the Daily Bugle images says that an update reads, since then, quote, chaos has erupted all over New York. Somehow people still support Spider-Man, not us. We are all Team Mysterio, baby. Now police has to take control of the situation. Way to go, Spider-Man. Interesting.
I mean, that sounds like Flash Thompson thing to do. Well, a MCU Flash Thompson thing to do. So, next up, we have a report that says that Keanu Reeves has been offered the role of Kraven the Hunter in next Spider-Man movie, or maybe not the next. We don't know if actually
Right.
this is no, he has been offered the role for a Spider.
Right. I don't like that. I don't like it at all. I love Keanu, but not as Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, I kind of. It would definitely be a more understated Raven. I don't know. He could probably put it off, but I'm kind of with you. Pull it off, but I'm kind of sort of. This is also coming from that element. Take that with a grain of salt.
Mhm.
Which is, I like bringing this stuff up as as little fun tidbits, but putting a whole lot of stock in it. So when we usually go through the full stuff that the comic sites happen to granted they it's fun, but sometimes you don't want to put a whole. And we know he's been approached for a Marvel movie. Like, some people are saying Moon Knight. Even know how I feel about that one, but we also know there's a Moon Knight show coming up. Probably not happen. I also know who's that. So
it's not going to be cast as Moon Knight because we already know who's going to play Mark Spector.
yeah,
But
exactly.
there's a role out there for Keanu Reeves in the MCU, but it's not Kraven. Not in my opinion, at least.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why Roddykat finds that so funny. I guess it's it's funny, but I just don't think it's I don't think it's the fit. I don't think it's the right fit.
Because I find it funny because one, it is because like I'm kind of in agreement with you on that, but I'm also, it's like it's kind of funny that I honestly didn't think you feel that way about this news. So
No, I don't like it. I don't.
yeah, not every role's for everybody, and I know everybody. A lot of everybody loves. Well, not we do it around these parts also. There's sometimes I'm still on the fence about it. I feel like he would have a look that would work for it, but the way he would probably put it that way. I don't know. Who knows? And again, it's a report, so we don't even know if it's an actual.
All right.
Or whether
Next
some people
up,
wants it.
right. Next up, Ewan McGregor has revealed where and when production for this upcoming Disney Plus Obi-Wan Kenobi series is going to take place. He states that they start making it in the late spring, and he thinks they're going to be shooting it in Los Angeles. McGregor told Eddie Izzard, noting the amount of media speculation surrounding where the show will be filmed. McGregor elaborated that his dad keeps sending him links saying, "I thought you were going to be shooting in LA because there's another tabloid expose that they're shooting in some bizarre town somewhere, and that we're meant to be making it in Boston, and then we're meant to be making in Boston or England, and they're not. They're shooting it in LA."
Okay. Yeah, there's that. Which I wasn't sure up until these last couple of rounds that this one was actually gonna be a thing that happened, because obviously this is the one that kind of language the longest after being. Speaking of some more Star Wars news, the Mandalorian actress Gina Carano has been fired by Lucasfilm. Yay!
So silly.
Finally.
What an idiot. They told her not to do it.
Right.
And she still did it.
Right. And they've also, and obviously there have been, a lot of chatter online for and or against being possibly someone we know that is problematic. But that is one thing or the other. But you know what? Gotta go. Like Agent 7 said, she's been given the chance to just shut up and take this bag. She chose violence. Good on her. And at the same time, speaking of, at the same time that this happened, oh wait, I don't have that in there. I don't think. Thought I did. Hold on for a second.
Let's say you can add it at the end. I know what you're talking about. Moving on.
Yeah.
The CW has officially renewed 12 shows for the 2021-22 television season, including The Flash, Batwoman, and DC's Legends of Tomorrow. In addition to The Flash returning for season 8, Batwoman is coming back for season 3, Legends of Tomorrow for season 7. The network also ordered additional episodes of its breakout hit Walker, which recently scored the CW's most watched series premiere in 5 years, taking the current season's episode count up by 5, together with the second season order. Meanwhile, Superman and Lois, which is set to launch with a 2-hour premiere event on February 23rd, received 2 additional episodes this season, bringing its total episode count up to 15. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bring it up right now. It's not necessarily comic book related anyway, but Pedro Pascal is set to star as Joel in the Last of Us HBO series, which The Last of Us is a game series a lot of folks like. So speaking of Mandalorian stars, so yeah, I think also Ellie has been cast in Game of Thrones Bella Ramsey. You know about The Last of Us, I won't hear then you. Good for Pedro Pascal still trying to get that bag. Or still actually getting it. And being a very decent human being at that. Unlike some folks. But yeah.
I'll take the next story. I'll
Sure,
take the
go
next
for it.
story since you dropped that little tidbit on us. Director Zack Snyder has announced the trailer for his upcoming cut of Justice League is going to arrive this weekend at 9:14 a.m. on February 14th, Pacific Standard Time. The filmmaker confirmed the news via Twitter, alongside a brief glimpse of Victor Stone's life as a football player prior to becoming Cyborg. I love that this article says footballer. I'm like, that means something different across the pond. So let's not call him a footballer.
So that is a really specific time to drop a trailer. The only thing that I actually even care about in this whole situation is I don't care. Just get that thing out of here already. God, I'm tired of hearing about it. But that's the only interesting note about this. Means something who knows. Spent too long talking about it already. Next up, Sonic the Hedgehog movie sequel reveals fitting title ahead of April 2022 preview. Oh yeah, that Sonic the Hedgehog movie. A sequel. And in Sonic the Hedgehog video game 2 style, we have a little teaser for it that one Miles Tails Prower. In which way? Was he in the first one already? I don't remember. I never watched that stupid.
I have no idea.
So I don't know if he was actually in the first one or not. I'm going to assume that he probably was. But nevertheless, even if he wasn't, there's a Twitter link that has a little teaser for it. Folks, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And yes, folks, Sonic the Hedgehog has had many comic books. Current one. Or that's why I choose to. Nevertheless, there's no subtitle, and we already. Next up,
Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack's Cover is getting an animated series adaptation at HBO Max. The series will be written by Bendis and directed by David Mack, with Rooster Teeth Studios producing. Published by DC under Jinx World, Cover ran for 6 issues from 2018 through 19. The series centers on a comic book creator named Max Field, who encounters a fan who claims to be interested in purchasing some original artwork. In reality, though, she's a CIA agent who wants to use Max as a cover for a dangerous mission.
Okay. Next up, HBO Max orders adult-targeted Velma spinoff starring Mindy. Yes, folks, Velma, as in Dinkley, as in Scooby Doo. I love me some Velma. Say what you want about Mindy Kaling at this point, and I'm really interested in this, but at the same time, like, what in the world would you do about it? Now, granted, this thing goes on to say what partially what described as an adult-focused comedy. Velma will offer an origin story for the character, with Mindy Kaling starring in an executive series. Then there's a line from HBO Max exec and a little blurb about what it's about, which I won't necessarily. But the series has no premiere date. I mean, I believe there was a slate of stuff that HBO Max came out and announced, including that last Bendis and Mac thing, but a few other falls into. And I think most of that may or may come under comic book. But nevertheless, there you go. Velma's getting her own show. We love some Velma. Some of us love. Don't love Velma. I don't know what to say. Next.
All right. Next up, according to a press release, Fox Entertainment has joined forces with Hasbro to its studio Entertainment One and Bento Box Entertainment to develop an animated television show based on Hasbro's murder mystery game Clue. You know, Colonel Mustard in the conservatory with the lead pipe, said Fox Entertainment president Michael Thorne in the release. By just hearing these colorful phrases alone, you immediately know what they mean, leaving no mystery as to why Clue is one of the most beloved board games turned IP of all time. They are excited to develop it as an animated series along with E1 and Bento Box. Okay.
Look, I love the ever loving heck out of the Clue movie. I don't care. Legitimately. The couple of comic book miniseries that they've had have also been all right. It's a thing, I guess, and it lends itself to an animated thing to her. But I'm like, did it really be a Clue? Next thing you know, they'll bring back Dungeons and Dragons. They probably would. That was more right. And I believe that I've seen something about a Risk coming out, or they're trying to do. They're getting out of pocket with some of this stuff. That being said, watch the '85 Clue movie because that thing is great. I don't care what it is. This is one of the few times I will be hyperbolic about but I love it to death. Next up, I believe we are going into the comic book news.
Meanwhile, the Hall of Justice.
We'll try to blow through some. But best 2020 graphics novels for adults list. We have a list here. It includes Hoxpox. Looks like this is the only actual. Well, I mean, most of these are not all of these are graphic novels, so they are comic book. Oh, something Kindling to Children, Volume 1. Be Gay Do Comics by The Nib. Be Big Black Stand at Attica by Frank Big Black Smith. Come Home by Indio. The aforementioned Fox. Invisible Kingdom by G. Ward, which I've never read. Got it. Kent State 4 Dead in Ohio. Making Comics. But you can check out that list in the show. Stuff. If you're watching the video, and happen to stop it right here, you can see the whole list right there. Ow. Next up.
Dark Horse Comics will release The Complete American Gods, a hardcover collection of the comic adaptations of Neil Gaiman's American Gods novel on September 14th, the company announced. The 720-page volume will collect 27 issues of the comics, which were previously collected in 3 smaller graphic novels. Volume 3 was just released last summer. The hardcover collection will come with a slipcase featuring new illustrations by David Mack and a bookmark ribbon with a gold pattern. Manufacturer suggested retail price will be $124.99.
Read American Gods. I don't know if I.
I read the novel, not the comics.
Right. Did you watch the show?
Did not.
Didn't. Because that's actually kind of what made me. 1602 was nevertheless. Raven, maybe DC's ultimate future villain, and Teen Titans Go predicted it. So this is potential. Well, it looks like it's a spoiler from Suicide Squad, which I'm fairly certain I've never read. DC Universe of Future State has featured some surprising turns from many former heroes, Red Hood, and others seeming to become villains after their present day end. However, there's a chance that the ultimate threat of distant future might be modern day hero. And blase. Raven, one that have something to do with it. And apparently, Titans Go the off the put upon anime. But then again, I feel like this is something out of the comics because we know, Raven is the daughter of Trigon, and she has actually, I think that is a couple of events, or at the very least, toyed with in comics. Can't really Titans Go. Like, I don't know why some of these articles tend to go to like, hey, here's the live action, the Arrowverse or the animated show that did something that comics have probably already did. Weird. But hey, here we go. Next up,
former Robin Jason Todd hunts Batman and friends in a new Red Hood ongoing series. So it's debuting this summer called Future State, and the series is called Future State Gotham. It would be the first ongoing series spinning out of the 2-month Future State event. It's set in the alt reality future of the current Future State event, happening in a time where Gotham is ruled by a tyrannical force known as the Magistrate, and their forces police Batman City like the Dark Knight never would. Vigilantes are illegal, and that's the general gist of the Future State Batman-centric books. Let's see here. Future State Gotham #1 goes on sale on May 11th.
right? And Red Hood is pretty much during the course of Future already is backup of one of the books already. Next up, DC announces Infinite Frontiers Zero's complete all-star lineup. So we got the full roster of creators attached to Infinite Frontier Zero, which is the event that is after Future. Pardon, for their relaunch for DC's March. And we have the likes of Joshua Williamson with James Tynion IV and Scott Snyder. Justice League is being written by Bendis, Brian Michael Bendis, Bond Villain. Batman's being by, I believe it's the current creative team, correct? Of Batman, James Tynion and Jorge Jimenez.
Yeah.
So basically, and some of the other stuff has been announced already, like the Wonder Girl by Joelle Jones and Green Lantern Alan Scott by James Tynion, Wonder Woman by Becky Conrad, et cetera, et cetera. Don't necessarily whole list, but yeah, people that have been involved with some of the characters are still with. Cool. I am definitely looking forward to, like Tim said in our back channel, look Titans again. There's a couple of them I'm actually looking forward coming out of Future Wonder Girl. I'm not sure about the Justice League. Don't have to have been here with long term. Next
up, Scott Snyder teases his DC Comics return. He is focusing on creator-owned titles for most of 2021. The writer hinted at a big return coming by the end of the year. This March, he's putting out a creator-owned book titled Nocterra, which is going to go on sale March 3rd from Image Comics. It's illustrated by Tony Daniel. But he also teased that oh no, he actually hinted that he was developing a pitch for a potential Nightwing run last year. Whether Snyder will go back to writing the adventures of Dick Grayson or explore a different corner of the DC universe has yet to be seen.
And I'm sure. Mr. Miracle returns in a new DC series and with an origin story. So this is not the Scott-free version. This is like his Hello Norman version, which we've seen relatively recently. New God's resident escape artist Mr. Miracle returns this miniseries. Mr. Miracle, the source of freedom, which sounds like that Rambo show from the 80s, animated one. Will be written by Brandon Easton and artist Fico Ossio. Is picking up the threads from Easton's current Mr. Miracle in world's mythology, which we're talking about. But coming back from Future State with a new origin story for the deck function as a de facto origin story and reintroduction of Charlotte Norman. Fico and I have a fantastic opportunity to establish him as a major hero in the DC Pantheon while making him a more complex character. Oh. Next up.
Amethyst, Princess of Gem World, returns with a new DC original graphic novel. DC has revealed the release date, cover, and more for the upcoming book. Hit prose authors Shannon and Dean Hale return to DC Comics for this original graphic novel, spotlighting the 80s magical princess with a new feature-length story drawn by Isaiah Fulmore. Amethyst Princess of Gem World goes on sale on November 9th. Let's see if there's a price point here. No, it just says November 9th.
Going back to already mentioned, I'm not, but Batman alum Scott Snyder and Tony Daniel create trucker-centric sci-fi drama and again. But the premise seems kind of interesting. Next up.
All right. Next up, young Hellboy title takes the Mike Mignola character back to a wide-eyed childhood in the Hidden Land. Let's see here. Mignola is co-writing Young Hellboy: The Hidden Land with Tom Snigoski and enlisting Craig Russo on interior art and Matthew Smith on covers. It's coming out on February 17th. It's a 4-issue series set not only in an unexplored place, but in a barely explored period in Hellboy's history, his childhood. Okay.
Yeah. And there's the rest of the article go. Or Craig. Cool. Next up.
I was about to say Snigoski's on that too. So yeah, it's like a group interview.
Right. Finally, the Batman Forever toys, someone somewhere probably. So yeah, apparently their Hot Toys is doing was releasing, but they have released official pics of his 1/6 action figures of Batman and Robin from 1995's Batman Ever, and as usual, they're right down to the nipple, not the bat nipple. Apparently, Robin's on there. Like they made the choice not to do. There you go. It's out there for you. It doesn't price point for. If you're so inclined, in the show notes of the show.
Next up, The Mandalorian and the Child get a new legacy statue from Iron Studios. The statue is 22.5 inches tall. The quarter scale statue shows off the bounty hunter in his shiny Beskar armor, and the child is following behind in his pram. Both characters are placed on top of a desert Navarro base with a stormtrooper helmet among the rock. The statue from Iron Studios will be priced at $749.99. The statue will be released in specific regions only, and they have not been revealed just yet. The statue is set to release between July and September of 2021, so pre-order should be going live soon, and collectors will be able to find it. Where is this link? At ironstudios.com.
So if you're watching the video, you can see the of it, and it's a very good looking statue. Actually, there are more pictures. Very detailed, cool looking, a lot of money. Next up, Hasbro reveals new retro Marvels. Let's see. Hasbro has recently announced 4 new retro figures for their Marvel Legends 0.75 inches figure of an iconic character. They'll be available spring 2021 for $10. Fans will be able to add the Hulk, Miss Marvel Carol Danvers, Nito, and the Human. Available in the U.S. at Target in March, and then expand to most major. Yeah, there you go. They've been kind of going full steam on this retro. Those you can see me kind of scroll through them. You interested in any of these?
I'm not into that scale. I prefer to stick to the 6-inch Marvel Legends. I'm not, the old school kind of 5 points of articulation, like the swivel neck and the shoulders and the hips, and that being it. Not into that.
Is there a Marvel Legends Miss Marvel that's not Kamala?
You mean in this style? It's
Right.
older. Yeah. It's older. It came out as part of a 3-pack. It's really not that common. It's actually one of the harder figures to find.
Right.
With the bathing suit and the sash and the thigh-high boots. But yeah, it is out there. It was part of a 3-pack with Captain America and Radioactive Man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't very widespread. Like it's not one of the more widespread 3-packs. So
Okay, cool. Next
up, Spider-Man gets a Superman-style twist in Heroes Reborn spin-off. Hyperion's pal Peter Parker gets his own Heroes Reborn title, but don't call him Spider-Man. The makeover makes him more like Jimmy Olsen than anything. So as part of the Heroes Reborn event, Spider-Man will be reimagined in a new one-shot titled Peter Parker, The Amazing Shutterbug #1. This Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen-esque take on Marvel's Wallcrawler will be written by journalist turned fiction writer and podcast co-host Mark Bernardin and artist Rafael de la Torre. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't suppose it's probably talked about it on Batman John.
Yeah, he has talked about it. He dropped it on the most recent episode because it's timed with this article.
Right. Cool. In unsurprising news, Mortal Hulk number 43 skyrockets on eBay following anti-Semitic art controversy.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about the controversy over some artistic choices last week in last week's Immortal Hulk. But again, like like I said, no surprise that those copies, and I feel like we kind of mentioned as much last week.
Right. Well, you have to mention the fact that they essentially recalled the issue,
They have, yes,
and that leads to the perceived lowered supply of the book.
right, and thereby making it a
Exactly. I mean, I got my copy. I did. I picked up my pull.
Yeah, I know you're usually up on your pull more than I am, but that's whole thing. Like I said, not surprised that this is happening, and whether it's going to end up actually being worth anything at some point. Apparently, it's on eBay.
No, it's actually more like 20. But yeah, I mean that's
what
kind
this
of
article
settled.
Saying, and this article saying it's over. Again, this was from when this.
Right. No, it says price is settled after. You got to at the end of the article it says it's settled. They're routinely selling on eBay for roughly 20. So
okay. I'm looking at the thing underneath the title though.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, for comics to hit the $20 mark, it says something. These books are $4 a pop, so it's gone up 5 times in value.
Yeah. All right. Next up, though.
Next up, I was going to say this is mine. X-Men villain team Dark Riders is remade as Marvel's newest team of superheroes. Magic launches her own X-Men team in Curse of the Man-Thing. So this is going to debut in May, a team of monstrous mutants led by Magic called the Dark Riders. It's going to debut, as I said, in X-Men on May 5th. In May 5th, X-Men: The Curse of the Man-Thing #1, the third in a 3-part limited series by writer Steve Orlando, focused on the Man-Thing. Whereas previous issues spotlighted the Avengers and Spider-Man, this will spotlight this new X-Men team comprised of Marrow, Forearm, Shark Girl, Wolf Cub, Mammo Max, and the aforementioned Magic. Okay, so interesting stuff.
Does Mammo Max mean something to you? I don't know who.
No, but I always got a kick out of the name. And Mammo Max, if I recall correctly, looks like an elephant.
That's a weird pairing, but all right, we'll see how that plays. Wait, was that? No, fine.
No, that's whatchamacallit. That's he used to be a member of the Mutant Liberation Front. That guy, the Forearm. That's Forearm, I think.
Marvel Comics is bringing back the classic version of the Defenders this summer, pivoting away from the Netflix-inspired roster in comic. The New Defenders, or at this point, it probably should be called the New Defenders. Pretty sure they've done the New Defenders before. But obviously, anyway, the New Defenders team looks to feature mostly classic members. Doctor Strange rallying his allies to battle a new Marvel timeline. Marvel has yet revealed the creator more details on the new project, but they on by the Marvel Universe artist Javier Rodriguez, which article can also Mask Rider, who is Marvel Universe. I think we've only seen one time. I think this Marvel Comics 1000 come up, and this article is also speculating that because of Al Ewing with the Mask Rider oscillated vendors, which I'd be down for. Javier Rodriguez doing art. I'd be down. We like some Al Ewing.
Yep.
And also there's some tarot cards, which I wonder if has anything to do with going back to that tarot that came seemingly went not in there nowhere, but it felt like it was bringing up stuff. Might come back up, but I don't know. It was basically one of those, hey, here's a new story, but it was based in the past. Also seemed like this. But we'll see when that happens. Oh, okay. That's the thing. Next up.
So, this news dropped earlier today, or at least Thursday. And this is mild spoilers because this is, this was stuff that was dropped as part of announcements for books that are coming out, in April, May, and June. Those are issues of Guardians of the Galaxy as Al Ewing wraps this initial larger story arc and sends the Guardians into a new, more super heroic direction with a new roster. And the Guardians of the Galaxy's, quote, new age of space, unquote, full cosmic lineup has been revealed by Marvel as villain Doctor Doom joins the team's ranks. And we link to our very own at TimDog98's reporting on this over at CBR. Marvel Comics announced the final two members as they were doing kind of a slow rollout of Al Ewing and Juan Frigeri's Guardians of the Galaxy. Al Ewing stated one of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong. Not exactly the song from Sesame Street, but what's Doctor Doom doing here and why? There's only one way to find out. Ewing teased in a statement. The roster, the complete lineup of Ewing and Frigeri's Guardians of the Galaxy includes Star-Lord, Nova, Gamora, Groot, Hulkling, Wiccan, Rocket Raccoon, Moondragon, Doctor Doom, Avril Kincaid Quasar, Super Skrull, Phyla-Vell, Drax, Mantis, Marvel Boy, Hercules, and the original Quasar, Wendell Vaughn. So there's a whole mess of Guardians on these three interlocking covers. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing how Al Ewing juggles all this.
Same. And also, this also kind of harkens back to the post-Annihilation Guardians, if I'm not mistaken, where the team basically came back out from Annihilation and at some point ended up shaking up its roster every other, like, I don't know if it's
right. They also have some of their uniforms, at least the core Guardians that we're familiar with, have uniforms that are inspired by that era, the blue and the red uniforms. So it's interesting to see. I'm looking forward to this. The Guardians have been a little bit hit and miss over the last several series, but seeing them kind of go back into the super heroic direction could prove to be pretty fun.
Yeah, and apparently, I don't know if you said that, but Guardians of the Galaxy 13, which is going to start this off, is 175th issue of the Galaxy coming out in April.
There you go.
Forward to that. Which actually, I'm ultimately may want to go back and read that old Guardians run because I don't think because I remember as we talked about when we talked about Annihilation, around that time I wasn't on it. And I remember the team and the current team that all about the OG Guardians, but still like this version. But it's like I knew. Anyway,
right, and it was a big. I think it was not a big surprise, but it was definitely a surprise that what Marvel Studios decided to do was to take that version and bring them into the MCU. So that was that proved to be a big jumping on point for a lot of people into those characters.
But then I guess thinking about it,
but not me. I was reading it.
Well, yeah, you were already on board with it. So. And like I said, I knew about him, and I think I might have touched on a couple of issues here and there, but it was And,
Right.
I was about to say, yeah, I guess it makes sense to go with that version as opposed to the OG Guardians because that was probably a little harder to sell. Would have been a little harder to sell point. Although Ant-Man is still slightly different. Like there's still like Earth tied to it, like with
Of
Quill.
course.
So that makes a lot more sense. Like, oh no, here's this future Earther and Mars, and a whole would maybe not have happened.
Listen, I poke fun. I love poking fun at DC, because they stay losing. Shout out to Eclectic. But we are literally going to live in a world where we're going to have not one, not two, but 3 Ant-Man movies.
Crazy.
Unbelievable.
Right.
When we get to that point, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be just, like we can't get like a halfway decent Justice League movie. We're going to have 3 Ant-Man movies. Unreal.
Right. And people even before then coming out, because I remember people like Ant-Man. Well, one, who is Ant-Man? 2, who would think this was a good idea? And find out that's a lot of people's favorite
Right.
set of movies.
Right. And 3 movies. We're gonna have 3 movies later. So
Anywho's, in some very good news for me as a lover of Star Trek 9. You ever wonder what powers are run about? How generations of Cardassian and then Federation engineers help keep Nora, aka Nine's, running on seemingly nothing but Miles O'Brien's disdain? Good news! This week, the only book you've wanted to read arrived, and according to IO9 photo, a look inside. Out this week from Eagle Moss and Heroes Collectors Star Trek range, Simon, Hugo, and Ben Robinson, Deep Space Nine, the Illustrated Handbook, that gives fans in the universe look at the tech behind one of the most beloved. From Federation runabouts to the legacy of Cardassian design, Cisco's team has to deal with, transforming interests, all the way to the breaking down the Defiant. The vanguard of the Starfleet war against Dominion. Book is filled with artwork highlighting everything that makes it tick. So I am absolutely going to. I did not know this was coming out, and I am absolutely. Out now. There's no word on the.
I'm gonna check on that now.
But yeah, as you can see from the your
34. Yeah, cover price is $34.95, but you can get it the hardcover at for a little bit less on Amazon.
Which might actually normally I would get like I have a copy of the Star Trek main. Star Trek, I would probably possibly
looks like fun.
Yeah. I love things like that. I don't necessarily like dig into them like that, but I do. Especially that the Star Trek press tech. So that's cool. I'm like I said, I will definitely be next up. So.
All right, next up in comic book business news, Image Comics is ending blanket returnability. So, in a sign that the comic business is at least on the way to going back to normal, Image Comics is ending its line-wide returnability program. Diamond Comic Distributors told its customers this past Tuesday. Image is maintaining its No Risk Number 1 program, which offers returns on selected first issues, affecting 4 issues solicited in January and 7 in February. Image was in it for the long haul. It first announced that it would make its line returnable last March in response to the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay.
Yeah, that's think the I guess the main part that I feel like we talked about this back then, but wasn't necessarily sure about.
Yeah, I mean, this is comic book retailer, specific stuff. And the issue of returnability of unsold product, definitely is, having that as a backup plan for retailers obviously was a good thing. But as as things slowly open back up, I guess Image feels like it can afford to go back to the way it normally runs.
It's a good sign. We'll see how that works out. Last but not least, seductive new series Carmen lands Milo Manara variant. The highly anticipated U.S. edition of Carmen by best-selling artist Guillaume March will showcase a dreamy variant cover by lauded artist Milo Manara. Originally published by Belgium as a graphic novel, Carmen will be single issue periodical format. March. Carmen is a provocative story that explores grief, suicide, and is a visual feast for the eyes, bring ethereal, fantastic artwork. So, for those that don't know about Milo Manara, I know, if I'm not mistaken, he or
Close to it.
yeah. His work is usually more I guess it's seductive or more titillating, some would say. I don't know if we've done too much US work, I don't think, but I know I've run across his articles. Some of y'all think J. Scott Campbell does some stuff and stuff that Frank Cho was doing, which is actually common. European tastes are different from US's, which is kind of sad because like I've seen some of his art and some gorgeous art in some cases. And like I said, a little more subjective. Audit is a good artist for a reason. There you go. I don't know if I will tweet this out, but hey, there you go. That's the thing. And that is it, folks, for the news for tonight. We'll get into our last ad read.
Our last ad read of the night, and you know what we read when it's late? Help keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or that Deep Space Nine technical manual, which I've referenced earlier. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
As we come to the end of another episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles, I was out being a part of this whole thing, whether it's live or after the fact, and watching a video. So, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Media on Twitter. You can also find me at CB Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. Pop Culture Net. And I think he's still doing that fight replacement. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris of this ish. Referenced him earlier with one of his articles. You can find him that on Twitter. You can also find him at CBCron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. Also, the Click Nation on Twitter, DKLIQNATION, all one word, clicknation.com, but also Comic Book Resources site where we get a lot of our news from. That's a relation because we've done that before. But you can also find him at Comic Book Resources over there right. Go check out his stuff. He's actually a writer. He's busting his ass. Are very proud. Oh wait, excuse me, that's not it. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Also find this on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, or podcasts, however you choose. Spotify or the Coastal Podcast Network.
Remember to hit like and subscribe and leave us 5-star reviews.
Indeed, all of that. You can also catch us recording live, like some of you have done, on either youtube.com/theclicknation or twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, all one. And also, like I said, if we, I am very bad at doing. So if we get up to 50 followers on, we can start uploading other good pocket or inclined. And we are definitely going to video game wise, but we'll see. Again, every Thursday night at 9:30ish p.m. Again, happy Lunar New Year to everyone out there. WandaVision coming up in hours recording, so check it out. No spoilers, folks. Don't be
right. Although everyone is forewarned, if you don't watch it right away, you may want to stay off social media for a little while. That's just, it's just a wise thing to do.
It sucks that you have to do that, but yeah, like you shouldn't have to do that when they're out there. But I definitely want to go in spoiler free, and also for the fact that, let's be honest, it's not just people in general spoiling, but it's also people. The news cycles are going to news cycles, or your comic book research, not singling them out, or just other news places are just going to get to jump out, with articles getting too much.
Right. I mean, just imagine what it was like when you were waiting to watch Endgame and you weren't able to get your tickets right away and you had to wait until, it dropped on a Thursday evening. I was out Thursday evening to watch it.
Same. But we were doing that because we're crazy, so.
No, but the point being that for those people who weren't able to get tickets, who aren't normally opening night or even preview night viewers, like we were just referencing, people who go on Thursday night. If that's not you and you're just not able to get to it, and you're only going to get to it a day or 2 or 3 later from its release, then yeah, you kind of know what the routine is by now. You just have to stay off of social media. And as Roddykat mentioned, it's also part of the news cycle. So, don't hit up, CBR, Newsarama, or Games Radar, they're, whatever they're called now, and all that other stuff. Just stay away from it. But it's probably best if you just go out and watch it so you can jump into the discussion.
Right. Or if you don't care, then go for Delph. Have that power in your hand.
Oh no.
Or Captain Planet, not Captain.
I was about to say.
I was watching Toy Galaxy dancing around playing. If people don't know about Toy Galaxies, or related. Good stuff. Anywho, folks, that is it. We're out of here. Like I said, we'll be back next week. 9:30 on to Thursday at the place that we've already mentioned. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Wakanda forever!